time.
All right.
Oh,
Good morning. And you know what? I'm going to leave your face hanging off the screen because those who don't come in for pre-production, they get to hang off the screen. So let me adjust you so that.
Can I swap this chair out real quick?
There you go. I'm going to give.
This is the loud, squeaky chair.
Okay. Do whatever you got to do. Like the audience will wait. They got nothing else to do. They got nothing else to do.
What? Like they're busy?
This is the Diva Show.
I mean, I can keep the squeaky chair, and then y'all can just listen to it squeak.
I think it bothers you more than it does anybody else.
Look how tall I am. Wee.
Okay, there you go. Here's Kelin.
Okay.
Are you ready, Kelin?
Ready.
Okay. I think the lack of symmetry is going to bother me more than you, so
it's going to bother me too.
All right, what's new? What's going on?
Not a whole lot. Not a whole lot's new.
Okay.
I gotta say, I've said this before. I'll say it again. I'm kind of pleased. 90s are coming back.
Yeah.
You think so? You ever see it? Like when I put this on, I feel like this is my 90s outfit. And then I see like other trends online of 90s things. I'll hear my kids like singing songs to themselves. And I'm like, how do you know that song? You know, and it'll be like, I don't know, something they saw online or whatever. And all of a sudden it's popular again. And I was like, ooh, it's back.
Yeah. There are only so many expressive options that you have. And so to recycle them is necessary. You only have so many.
You only have so many.
Mm-hmm. In fashion, think about if you're a fashion designer, right?
Uh-huh.
And you move in a direction, you end up where you began because there's only so many different variables. Once you've done them, you got to go back and into the beginning. So for instance, give me an example of something 90s that you saw lately.
Flannel's coming back.
Okay.
Makeup trends, some are coming back. Darker lip liner.
Okay.
Music trends.
Yeah. You given enough time and you haven't done something and it's like, hey, you know what? They got these skateboard things. I wonder if like we made that popular and had kids do skateboarding.
Bring it back.
And then it gets to be too common. Too many people are doing it. Can't set yourself up to be unique doing it. And then you're like, I'm not doing that anymore. And then 10 years go by and like, hey, nobody's doing that. Let's do this again.
Do it again. Like the remaking of movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like anyone got a unique idea for a film? No. Well, let's remake this one. I saw Baywatch is coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Another version of Baywatch. Yeah. They're doing a Teddy Ruxpin film.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any like trends or things that you wish would just like die forever? Like
most
it was
trends.
just
like
awful.
I'm an I like people like to be alive, but what they do while they're alive totally annoys me. So there's most things I would have go away.
So you're kind of just like, once it gets to a level of popularity that it's everywhere, you're like,
it's annoying.
Now get out of here.
And especially like I look at the utility in things, and when things just arrive that have no utility, or when I figure out the utility, it's narcissism or it's, you know, it's promoting vices, then I get super annoyed with it. Like, why did you do that thing? Like, okay, let's just put gauges in your ears. I'm thinking, okay, what is the utility of that?
Oh, yeah,
make your ears really big, disfigure some of your skin irreparably.
Yeah.
Okay, so downside is you injure yourself, right? And what's the upside? That you make a spectacle of yourself so that people pay attention to you, because it's no different. You ever see the guys that do like the piercings all over their face?
Yeah.
Right? It's just volume 1 on a volume 12 scale.
Yeah.
And when I know that what human beings do, which is they ramp things up and try to outdo themselves, then what are you going to do? You're going to gauge your cheeks and then gauge your nose and then just have bullet holes in you all over. I mean,
and then do you get mad if people stare?
You do.
Like that's because to me the worst.
It doesn't have the effing effect because not everybody is going to take your expression and have an appreciation for it. So
yeah,
when you do it, you have to understand that you are going to annoy people like me who are then going to I'll passively just roll my eyes at you like, how stupid are you? That's it.
I mean, in anything, whether it's like crazy piercing, something you're wearing, even like talking on speakerphone in public.
Mm-hmm.
If you are doing something, drawing attention to yourself, don't act like you're not, you know you are, then don't be mad if people stare.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, I'm going to listen to your phone conversation.
But again, like this is a contradiction with me because I love people pushing on the status quo, right?
Yeah.
I really enjoy that. Take social norms and challenge them and see if they hold up to scrutiny, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, when it brings attention that you weren't asking for, you invited that in. So you got to be able to handle it. It's your responsibility as the person pushing on the status quo to be able to handle the pushback that you are inviting into your world.
So if someone's got like enormous gauges and their ears are all stretched out and their face is pierced and they're welcoming it, like, yeah, you want to talk about my stuff? Yeah, I'd love to tell you about it. And I love the attention I get. Then so be it.
And then the complaint would be like, oh, man, I can't believe that I'm treated differently when I go in public. Why won't people just accept me? And I'm going to say that they probably were pretty accepting before you mutilated yourself. And then it's hard to, like, you did it not so you would blend in. Okay.
Yeah.
So that was the invitation to the people who were like, oh, you are way different than me now. Right. And I'm going to comment like, aren't you going to worry about that when you're 70 years old and have holes in your head? Because you're hoping that everybody does the gauges, but you were a front runner on that. And I could have told you at the beginning that not everybody is going to do that. And you are going to not blend in for a while. And while it's popular, okay, cool. Right. You get some positive. But there's going to be a time when your peers now don't think it's as cool as they once did. And you might have some regret. So warm up to that concept before you do it. And if you're like, oh, I don't care if I'm 70, I've got big holes in my ears, and I don't care if anybody likes it or not. I'm just being me. And I'm like, cool. That is a responsible relationship with making making choices that set you apart from everyone else.
I feel like I've been seeing trends in tattoos. I don't know. I swear. You'll probably know what I'm talking about. I've seen it so often. Has anyone ever seen typically a girl with a tattoo of a feather, and the feather, as you go up the feather, turns into birds that are flying away?
Yeah.
That's everywhere. Mm-hmm. I know so many. I don't know them. I see all the time the same exact tattoo. Feather turns into birds that are flying away. And I'm like, why do you want to have something everybody has? I thought the whole point of a tattoo is to make it like personal and unique. Same with like, back in the early 2000s, it was cool. Like nautical stars were cool and people would get like nautical stars everywhere. And now you look at it and you're like, oh, you must have gotten a tattoo back in like 2000. You know, like that's what that
Well, here's my recommendation on this. Okay. Usually that I want to get a tattoo strikes some people at times when they should be not contemplating a tattoo. So rule number one, if you have to go into a tattoo shop and look through the catalog, right?
Like, what do I want?
You're not doing it right? Because then what they're going to do is take recent projects, and then 100 of you are all going to look at that and say, that's really pretty. I want that. Now, so if you have to look through the catalog, don't do it yet, right?
Yeah.
Maybe take it back with you, do some contemplation, and see if that's something that is specific and unique to you. I had a friend that we got tattoos on the same day, right?
Oh, friendship tattoos.
Okay. And
wow.
I got something that I had decided years ago to get. As soon as I could get it, I was going to get it. And he said, and at the time, no fear was it. So he got no fear.
Was this in the 90s?
Yes. He got no fear across his back. And I was like, dude, that is a pop culture reference, right? That might not be something.
Very dated.
Yes. Do you really want that clear across your back where you have to live in no fear? What about in the future? What if you're really afraid and you've got this tattoo, right? That basically says that you're not afraid, that people are going to get mixed messages and it's going to be a really confusing time in your world. But he got it anyway. And now he lives with no fear.
I have a really good friend from high school. Sometimes she watches this show. I hope she does this morning. Mm-hmm. Her nickname all through school was Pickle because she was very little. She still is. Everybody called her Pickle. Like, we graduated and I would hear people say, I didn't even know what her real name was. Well, right after graduation, she got in bold black print the word pickle tattooed right across the top of her back. And we're all like, don't do it. Don't, like, you don't think you'll ever regret. No, I don't mind it. I love the name, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to do it. To this day, she has. And I remember people saying, what about when you get married one day in your backless wedding dress? So sure enough, when she got married, I made her take a picture with me going in her backless wedding dress, Pickle. And now nobody calls her Pickle. She doesn't go by Pickle, but I am like, chick, you are Pickle for life. I won't even use her real first name.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder if she regrets that. I wonder. I've never really asked her. Do you regret it, or?
And sometimes, like when something pops into my brain that I think is super clever, and I share it with the world, and then I read it like years later, and I'm out of the state of mind that I was when I shared it with the world. I'm like, what the F was I thinking? Why did I not have a team of editors that say this does not have lasting appeal?
But it's out there
forever. And I'll get reminders on my phone of that day. And I'm like, what the F was I thinking? So I don't think humans are really good about making long-term decisions because they get caught up in the emotional moment and they do dumb things that they have to live with for the rest of their life. And maybe that we should have accountability partners before we make any kind of decision that could affect us.
I've said this recently in the last several days to people. I'm like, what can be probably the most difficult thing about this show that we do is we keep it moving. And so when we talk about deep topics or important issues, like we talk without sitting and thinking for a while sometimes because we're in the moment. We got to keep it moving. And sometimes I'll say something. I'll feel real good about my answer. And then I'll leave. And a day or two later, I'll go, you know what? I'm thinking differently now. Maybe it is this way. Maybe blah, blah, blah. But I had to just respond. And I'm like, guess what? Now my answer is on the internet forever. And I might not even feel that way in a year, in 2 years, and days.
But that's the most important part of public dialogue is that you get real, legit responses from people. If we were, let's just say we had bullet points and we knew what we're going to say, we got to think about all of them, it would be not as great to listen to because these are hot takes in the moment and you get the most raw and truthful responses. And I think that's the best part of public discourse. It absolutely is. You get to know people that way. And our audience gets to know us on that kind of a level where we know what makes us tick. And I think, and I'm not biased at all, that we are two good people. We really are. So having an opinion from someone who will be honest and objective and give you the truthful hot take is very valuable. Having people that are just emotionalized and captured and won't give you truthful statements and just parrot responses, that's not appealing because if I wanted that, I would just turn on mainstream media and I would get that all day long.
And there's something to be said when somebody can react and say something and then reflect on it. Not just dig their heels in, but actually go reflect, come back and be like, you know what? I've had some time to think. I want to change my answer. I want to do things differently. And that should be a virtue.
It is.
But what we do in our society is we'll then take that, point out what they said first and go, oh, you were just lying then.
Yeah,
or you were just whatever.
Don't cater to the stupid. Just keep doing what you're doing. I appreciate it. Our audience is smart. They appreciate it. And that will never fly here because I can't wait till somebody says that.
Yeah.
And I will punch them in the metaphorical face.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Like somebody pointed out something one time. It was like music or a song or something I had liked years ago. And they pointed it out to me in a teasing way. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Because I bet you I've not changed at all in 25 years. You know, like, oh, you got me there.
Yeah.
At 19, I liked that.
Well, that's the fun part. Like when I met my wife, she was just a hippie liberal, right? She would have been, if she had not met me, she would be in a field right now picking flowers, right?
Hugging trees,
and probably all bought into every social cause that there ever was. I saved her from a life of meaningless pursuits.
People are like, you corrupted her.
Oh, I every day I'm thankful that I was there to rescue her 100%.
Do you think you did, or do you think she just humors you?
No,
and then goes and picks flowers.
I feel like I rescued
leaves.
you a little bit too.
A little bit. Yeah,
because I forced you to converse until you decided. I didn't propagandize, right?
Yeah.
I don't. Same thing with my kid. My kid ends up being even way more conservative than I am, just by the peripheral information of the conversations that we have around him, and then he gets to decide. He could have become whatever he wants to, and he's arming himself. He has the same curiosity as I do. He's a little bit more militant than I am about certain things. He gets really pissed off about things that I kind of have the ability to let go, but he gets hung up on some of the injustices, some of the things that don't make sense. And I depend on him because he's not captured by anything. Right.
Yeah.
So when it pisses him off, it's not because someone made him pissed off. He's legitimately pissed off about it. And, you know, like, for instance, you know, pick your social costs of things that don't make sense. So we'll talk about what's happening in the current political climate. Okay. So everybody knows that every machine that's created in a government sense or law enforcement sense should be 100% objective. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so if a machine is ever used against somebody in one way and against another person in a different way. So for instance, the Department of Justice under the Biden administration, they used law enforcement to specifically go after somebody who they didn't agree with. And now the Trump administration is using the Department of Justice to single out and go after their enemies. Well, as a kid that wants to just go through life knowing that he's going to be treated fairly for the rest of his life, that scares the shit out of him because of how much of his opinions and his principles are going to be governed based on whoever is in control of the machine that could one day injure him for his beliefs, right?
Yeah.
That should make everybody feel uncomfortable.
But what happens, I think, is whatever, not regime, but I guess like administration is in office, when that's realized, is now the bad guy forever.
Right.
You know, if you are younger and there's a Democrat in office and you're like, hey, they're doing this and that's awful. Now you lean right. And then you don't ever realize that the other side will do it too, or vice versa. Republicans in office, well, I'm going to be Democrats because I didn't like what this guy did, without realizing they'll do it too. I feel like that's almost where, number one, I think family, I think, is a big driver of whether someone's going to lean left or right. But the other thing I think is when you come into your own and start paying attention, who are you seeing these things with? And do you have those same opinions and that same realization with both? Or do you just put it on one and assume the other's good? I think that happens too. Hopefully not.
If you're
with
around
everyone.
it long enough, you know that these are just human beings and they're all bad. And if you give them too much power, you're just going to see magnified bad. Right. And so give them less power and don't be attached to an ideology. That's really the best advice I could give anybody.
I want to know how we got to where when we bring up ideas like term limits and we say, hey, maybe don't have these people in these big deciding positions forever. Maybe bring in some new people, some new ways of thinking. But who votes on that? Those people. Yes. How did we set that up that way? Like, we're trapped. We're trapped. How did we trap ourselves? Like, how is that legal? How is that a thing?
Okay, so we, at the same time, we acknowledge the founders and how genius they really were. But then when it comes down to the practical exercise of government, the people that are good, like when they want to get something done, like let's just say somebody in government says, I want to solve homelessness, right? So let's just say we were little government, had very little power, nobody really paid attention to them. And they were like, oh, we have this apparatus that can do some good, so I'm going to do some good. And they're like, the constraints of government doesn't let me solve homelessness because I have detached power and I can't do any of these things. So then they're like, hey, let's give ourselves a little bit of power so we can go over here and solve homelessness. And everybody's like, yeah, that's a good idea. And then everybody realizes all they got to do is create a justification that's noble. And then people will be able to say, here's some more power so you can go do this good thing. Well, the founders would have been like, hey, I get that you want to do it for a good reason, but don't do that, because what you're going to do is you're going to create a mechanism now that extends beyond the power limitations that we formulated. We tell you what will happen. And then those people are like, no, we'll never get that egregious where we'll go too far. It'll just be the homeless thing. And the rest of us are like, what do you not want the homeless to be solved? And we trap ourselves because we're being manipulated. And either it's intentionally manipulated or it's just the natural consequences of the swell and growth of power consolidation. And again, I don't think there are very many good people anymore that are truly want to do good things and are only hampered by the controls, I think they leverage those noble things to just get more and more power. So you end up either we constraining ourselves before there's a reason to, or the whole thing crumbles on ourselves. And I think we've gone too far, and we need a good crumbling. We need a good neutering. We need to really cut, even if there are consequences for cutting the power that they have. Like I was listening to Marco Rubio respond the other day about USAID and all of the people that have died because of USAID, and also hit with a cutting our funding to the UN and all the people who have died because UN funding, right? And so that's the leverage that I'm talking about, where we didn't cut those fundings because we hated helping people. We cut those fundings because as soon as the bad people in there felt like that we would write checks endlessly to help people, and then they can fund the bad things, right? They did that. If, let's just say, they kept it pure and the only money going out was to actually help people and nothing was ever misappropriated or used, guess what we'd still be doing right now? Still funding, helping people with, with homelessness or hunger or whatever. But it's not the case.
No, all we do is say, oh, well, it's a bad person and that's a good person. And these bad people don't want to do nice things for people and they don't want to help people. And it's like, what makes sense? Somebody who's just bad, who wants to do all bad, who hates people, who doesn't want to be in this position for people. They're just power hungry and money, or they're cutting something because it's actually not a good deal.
So I'm sending you out in the parking lot, right? And I'm like, hey, I'm going to set the table up with $100 bills, and I want you to help a bunch of people that are just tight on money, right? For the first couple days, I bet you that the program would be working well. But as soon as people know there are free $100 bills giving out, so before we do it, I'm going to say, all right, what are we going to do? Like, how are you going to make sure that it gets in the hands of the people who really need it, right? And then what are you going to do once it's just being exploited and very few of the dollars are getting in the hands of people that actually need it? Well, before you get started, you already know what you're going to do under both of those certain circumstances. You're going to be able to gauge it. I'm going to ask you every day, like, hey, do you think it's still effective? And you're like, well, no, they got the same person coming every day. What is the likelihood of that person needing $100 on that day where I didn't save them from being out of gas that day or having to pay XYZ? I just created a dependent over here that is looking at my $100 as just something that I owe to them every single day. So before we do it, we're going to do it short term, right? Before everybody figures out how to exploit it. And we're going to evaporate it in really close, proximity to when we started it. And I'm going to be really diligent about weeding out the people who don't really need the thing that I'm giving away. That should be the overall policy and principle before government money is being spent. Sunset it so when it gets exploited, and be diligent to make sure it's not ending up in the hands of people who don't need it. If you see that as being part of the process, then you will see programs that have a very short term. It's not an endless term. It's a very short term. So that's why it goes in conjunction with term limits. There should be a term limit on everything in government. Laws should have term limits. Representatives should have term limits. Funding should have term limits. And the people who are on the gravy train are like, how can I get dependent on this stuff if you cut it off after 6 months of having it? I won't be able to make a lifestyle out of being able to formulate my prosperity if you cut off my funding every 20 seconds. And then I got to go in the wells of Congress to make a new debate about getting funding, proving that I made good use of it. That's how it should work.
Yeah. And why? Let's say we're two different political parties. We're on the opposite sides. Why would I want to do what makes sense when I can just wait until we get to now it's being exploited and it's kind of a waste of money? I'll let you cut it off. And then I get to say, look at this bad guy that doesn't want to help people.
Yep.
Look, he wants to cut funding for people who need it.
That is, that was the long explanation of why we're trapped, because we didn't listen to the founders' skepticism about the consolidation of power. We just let it happen little slices at a time before we look up and say, okay, we are not being governed anymore. We're being owned by our representatives, and we have no choice. Like, go ahead and, what they would say is, well, just vote in somebody. Yeah. Have you seen your options for is there anybody that can go in there and have enough conviction to uproot that system? No.
Yeah. Like, have we ever had a president that wasn't Republican or Democrat? Have we ever had a?
Well, you have to go back 150 years.
Oh, so 150 years ago, that was the thing. But yeah, like I remember we talked about Andrew Yang yesterday. When I started to get into him, I remember thinking, oh, what a shame though. I better not even, what's the point? He's not going to win. Same with RFK Jr. I liked him when he was running. What's the point? Everyone's like, what's the point? He's not going to win. I'm like, don't you all see something wrong with that?
Mm-hmm.
Like
we are trapping ourselves because we're being manipulated either on purpose or by accident. And that's just where we're at now.
Oh, we are so manipulated. It's maddening. Have you heard, I was looking at this term. Have you heard this popular term now? It's a phrase, go touch grass.
Yeah.
People are like, go touch grass. It's sort of meant now as like a cutesy insult almost.
Mm-hmm.
And if you guys don't know what go touch grass means, it's slang for get off the internet, go outside, be in nature, stop fighting on the internet all the time, take a mental health break from it. But that is so true, I think. We're so manipulated everywhere we look, whether it's on the TV or it's on social media, wherever. I feel like we all need to go touch grass.
I take it literally. When I hear that, I actually take my shoes off and I walk through the lawn until I get hit by a bug. But I think it's good for you.
It is good for you.
Jerry says, I'm sure this is a difficult question with the line of political diversity being a majority left or right. I think we really need to get a majority to the center to eliminate the hate and crimes taking place and allow a degree of to disagree to help us get to a norm. Your thoughts. And I will tell you that the middle moderate, the people who like joined the group at the last minute, are the majority. They already are. And that's why the two parties fight so hard for the 50% in the middle, because they aren't really bought in. But every year that we allow this to progress, more and more of those people don't think they have an option to disagree in a different direction.
Yeah.
And so I agree with Jerry that I think political parties should be blindfolded and names put on the ballots, and you don't know who they belong. Let them organize to do their funding, but keep voting completely blinded to the voter. And then then if I ran, you wouldn't know if I'm Republican, Democrat, Independent, Whig Party. You wouldn't know anything, and you would vote based on what you know. How many people, if they don't have the R&D next to their name, they wouldn't know anyway?
Yeah.
Lots and lots.
That's why I was talking the one day, there's a website. I can't remember what it is, but every election season, when I'm trying to decide who I like better and I'm getting information, what I'll do is go to this site and they'll do a list of the stances of all the candidates and what they think and what the actual issue is. And you can read through it and it'll say, how do you feel about this? And you select it. How do you feel about this? And you select it. And at the end it says, looks like you would side more with this candidate. And you don't know. You don't know who says who about it or who says what. And it's just like, oh, interesting. Yep. And I wish people would do that more often. What happened to the America Party? Wasn't that like a 5-minute idea Musk had?
And I think he did the filing. And then about a month later, he said he crunched the numbers and looked into how effective it would be. And it would be a colossal failure. So he pulled the plug, and he's just spending that same amount of money on getting congressional seats. So this is going to be an interesting midterms to look for, because two things are going to happen. Number one, the gerrymandering continues, where we have a lot of Republican states that are redrawing districts to kick out blue districts out. So the representation will be less for Democrats this time. And number two, having the illegal immigrants being ripped out of the census and sort of like an off-cycle census being taken that doesn't have illegals being able to be counted in that census, because districts are set by population is set by census. So you rip illegals out of there, and a lot of Democrat voters disappear, which means that you have less congressional districts because population shrink. So they're going to lose seats from gerrymandering, and they're going to lose seats from a mid-cycle census being retaken. And so I don't know that they're going to do the census in time for midterms, but I'm pretty sure by the next election, the next big election, that they'll have a new census being taken. That'll be a big deal. That'll be a real big deal. And My son brought this topic to me. He must have been looking at some kind of meme map about the states that really push against voter identification. And he said, all of those states are blue. Like, why are those states blue with identification? What if they just switched it and made it identification? How many of those would be less blue? And it's an interesting question. And
he's saying they're blue if they push back against the idea of having identification.
No, they don't have standards for voter ID, right? So there are no standards. You say, why are they all blue? And so you got to ask the question: are they blue because, right, or the other way around? So it's an interesting question from a 15-year-old noticing something that is not, it's a correlation for sure. But if you did those three things, you continue to gerrymander Democrat districts out of states in Republican states. If you remove illegal immigrants and people who can't cast votes anyway from the voter rolls, and you made mandatory voting ID, how many of those blue districts and how big a disadvantage are Democrats going to be at in the next election? It's going to be huge. So it's interesting to watch those three things.
Then you sprinkle in some manipulation, like political violence and things of that nature.
And you dry up the NGOs that were funding Democrat campaigns. They're at a huge, I don't think people realize how much by taking that money out of the system, whether or not they can keep it out of the system is one question, but they absolutely made a difference on that. And if they go after Soros and dry up his funding, right? Democrats are going to have a really hard time getting elected in the future because I think they relied heavily on that strategy.
Yeah. We were talking about this a little bit the other day too. And it's got me wondering, like, who do you think would run for the Democratic Party in the next election? I wonder, because I can see a few people on the right. I could see, like, obviously J.D. Vance maybe wanting to run. Who knows if Kennedy will try again? Probably not. But there's some people you could see would be a natural progression into, I think now I'll step into the presidency. Who do you think?
They have no choice. That's what I mentioned
side
yesterday, because really you have two games, right? You have populist appeal, like what personality that you know about in the Democrat Party is even electable. And they're polling every day of who their electable people are. And they are definitely catering to the 20% of the liberal wing or the fringe liberal wing, right? And so if you're looking to have a moderate candidate, you don't even know who they are right now. So they would have to invent them out of whole cloth in the next 3 years and make them into somebody who's electable that has broader appeal. But if they go broader appeal, guess who they lose? The fringe wing. And they're not saying and do it. They're not the Mandamis of the world who say that we want to have 80% taxes and rent controls and true communism right off the get-go.
Yeah.
So either they go after the fringe and they have a solid 20% base and hopefully appeal, and that person doesn't exist in today's political climate at all. They haven't, at least they're not going to run Kamala again. They're not going to what's his name from California, Gavin Newsom.
Yeah,
probably your number one candidate at this point.
Newsom, because I remember I feel like they pushed the idea of Tim Walz being the nice guy for a while, and I was like, I don't think that's going to fly anymore.
No, so all the people they should run, they can't run because they don't have broad popular appeal. I think Josh Shapiro, which I don't have a affinity for the dude based on recent, but before, if you take the last 6 months away, Josh Shapiro would have been a good candidate. State that he would come from would lock in Pennsylvania. He had some moderate views. But anyway, I think they're stuck right now in a lot of different ways. So Democrats need to be sweating right now.
We have how many years left?
3.5. They'll start running with about 2 years to go. So we've got another year and a half before we start seeing political campaigns again.
It's gonna be rough.
Yes, it is. Frank says it's the hidden capitalism. What's your scam?
What?
Share a little bit more with that. I'll respond to it because I'm a
elaborate a little more,
big proponent of capitalism. So I want to see what the hidden capitalism is. Maybe he's talking about the government, the fundings that are used through NGOs and Soros to create pseudo capitalism. So I want to float something different topic altogether, but I was thinking about, how you bring those national days of XYZ, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to nominate 4 of them. I'm
Okay.
going to bring my own, and these are really good.
I wonder if they already exist.
They're all the same. They're all the same,
okay.
right? So every quarter, every 3 months, it's the National Parent FBI Deputization, right? A little bit of a tongue twister.
FBI Deputization.
So what that does is the end of every quarter, all parents and guardians are hereby deputized to play an FBI role for the people they are guardianing for. Your kids, whoever's in your household that you're responsible for, now you're an FBI deputy. And your goal and job is that you are going to do in-home investigations to see what your kids are into, talking to, exposed to, and whatnot. You can
random search.
Turn the
bust
beds
open
over,
the bedroom door.
Find the stacks of Playboys that are under the
all
sheets.
Electronics.
Pop those electronics open and see what conversations they're having, see what apps they're paying attention to, where they're going online, what they're doing when they're not around you.
Random drug test.
Random drug, the whole thing. You get a 1-day window to be an FBI agent, and you have complete immunity to what parents would say as their their privacy, right? No privacy.
No
You're
privacy.
We have reasonable suspicion that I don't know everything that you're doing, and your privacy is out the window. The other 90 days during this, we'll adhere to privacy. I'll believe you, but this is when I check on it. So show me your Discord, show me your Instagram, show me your Snapchat. Let's dig into it. And now I'm get to know the children that I'm guarding for, because parents are responsible for their actions, right?
Yeah.
You don't know who they're talking to. What if there's some, random furry group that's, nudging you to take action at somebody with violence?
Yeah.
You won't know it. And you're a parent. You got to put a stop to that shit.
I'm actually kind of concerned more than I used to be now, because this is something I did maybe not often, but somewhat regularly. I would go into my daughter's room, and I'm going to get heat for this. I would look to see if there was a diary, if she had one, look at it. When she got a phone, we would go through her text messages, everything she was doing. Well, she didn't know at the time that we can see deleted text messages on the phone. So I would go into all of her deleted messages and read something. Well, one day I found something that I wanted to bring up with her and address with her and talk about. But because we had to do that taught her we can see deleted text messaging. So all it did is now she figured out how to find the deleted messages and delete it from that area. All she kind of did is hide things differently. And I'm not saying she's being sneaky. I'm not saying she's doing this in a malicious way by any means. But I know now our cover's blown in that aspect. And so part of me is I showed our hand, but I had to address something. I wasn't just going to let it slide. So what do you do then?
Well, you can't look at it as you're going to be, okay, so you're comparing two things. Being completely blind to what's going on and knowing more than you knew before. So your objective isn't to thwart it or whatever. It's a check so that they know you're paying attention. If you're not paying attention to it, then they basically have nothing to fear, right?
Yeah.
But if they're going to get into a conversation and know that mom in 80 days is going to be paying attention to something, it'll either throttle them, right? So that they don't do that kind of stuff, because it's going to be outed. There's no veil anymore that's going to hide their actions, and they're going to govern themselves knowing that they've got some oversight. Or they're going to do what you said, which is they're just going to, hide it a little bit better. But at the very least, you will have more information, even if they get to hide stuff. The goal is not to make it so that you're now the sole authoritarian. It's just to know more than what you, and most of the time, just the fact that you pay attention. And don't do it on the cover. Don't sneak in and look at the diary. Say, we're going to have diary day, or we're going to have look at your Discord chats day, and they know that you want to know stuff.
I've even sometimes just randomly popped in a room. Hey, what are you doing? How's it going? Can I see your phone? Why? Just want to look at it. Okay. And I've told her, this is not your phone. I own this phone. This is not I own this house. Like and I've explained plainly, my job is to keep you safe. That's my job. I take my job very seriously. So I will be looking at everything in here. I will be paying attention. I will be listening to your conversations. I will be, because I'm not trying to be a jerk, but it is my job to keep you safe. And the only way I can do that is by knowing what you are involved in. And there was one time she got so mad at me. I went to walk in her room to say something and I see her go like that on her phone. And I went,
give it here.
Yep. I said, what'd you just do? She's like, nothing. I was like, let me see. Why do you have to see? I was like, really? I'm just going to ignore what you just did? Give me the freaking phone. And I did look and there was nothing. There truly was nothing. I think I startled her. But the fight, why would you fight me? If it truly was nothing, hand it to me.
With my quarterly deputization, right? Then you can walk into a room and say, it's freaking that day again. I got to go through your stuff. Joe's making me do it because it's national guardians responsible for shit.
Well, I don't
Let me
make
see
the
the phone. We got to
rules.
get through this together. Why don't you just tell me a bunch of stuff so that I could check the box that, I'm paying attention. We're in this together kind of thing. And it makes it easier as a parent to be able to blame the National Day of Parental FBI agents.
And another thing I started doing, one, not only sort of pushing and being the aggressor and checking everything, but I have started, it doesn't matter what I'm doing to an extent. If my daughter is like, I have to tell you something that happened today. Let's go. And I sit on her bed and I don't have my phone and I look right at her and I was like, tell me the tea, because I want her.
Yes.
And it could have been something serious. It could have been something silly or funny. It could have been, well, so-and-so's boyfriend said this, or then she texted me this. And so here are some screenshots of our conversation. And it's middle school girl drama that I don't give two craps about, but she does. Mm-hmm. And I don't want her to ever think I can't share this, mom, or mom doesn't care. So I was just like, oh, okay, then what did he say? Well, then what did she say? And I sit there and interact because I don't want to ever stifle that. Like, come to me with everything.
Exactly. Well, I will guarantee you that if you've got a kid that's less than 18, that they are in some kind of chat, communication, relationship with someone who you as a parent need to be a filter to see what that means and what danger they're in, because their brain is not to the point where they're suspicious in the right ways that could really orient all of those conversations and that material. And you need to put it through a prism. So let's just say, do you think your kids being on social media have ever seen things that are pornographic in nature?
They're not even on social media, but probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think they've heard language that you would rather not let them hear?
Yes.
Do you think they've heard political perspectives that are deranged and you would want to re-explain the right way?
Yes.
Okay. So think about your kid right now having all of that in front of them and nobody giving them guidance over how to interpret that. Would you want to have that conversation with them? So on FBI Day, you get to go find out like really how deep they are in those conversations. So we're dealing with all these, these liberal, alternative lifestyle people that are angry about freaking everything. They're going into environments because they're attracted to what they're pissed off about. They're finding people who won't go do the violence themselves, but if they can nudge you to go do it and they don't have to get in trouble, now you got this person that thinks they're justified. They think they're angry and they've got great reasons to be, being nudged by adults, given information to make it more likely that something happens, and then handing off weapons or telling them how to make bombs or giving them strategies about how to, perform violence on another person. Yeah. Now, do you want your kid to be a pawn in something that is way above their pay grade?
Well, and another thing I think we have to do as parents is we have to be so careful about our own biases. Like the videos, I'm sure you've seen them, where children are like either cheering or crying about a political candidate. And it's like, that kid doesn't even know who that person is. That kid's not following what's going on in the world. They're hearing you and your bias and what you're telling them.
Yep.
And I've seen our kids sort of root for those we are and, oh, darn, if something doesn't go our way. And I make sure that I am so careful to not ever put in them like, this person's right and this person's bad. It's just, oh, well, here's what I like about this person. You know, other people feel this way about this person. It's kind of whatever you think. And if they say, well, who do you like? Well, I like this because of this. It's just kind of whatever you think and blah, blah, blah. You know, I try to like make it as open as possible because I don't ever want to be that parent that's like grooming their kids. You know, like, let me just groom the next generation of closed-minded, biased people.
Yeah.
Oh, it's scary.
So there are going to be some parents that suffer from these two things. Number one, your kids are smarter than you. They're using different technology, different methods. So my first advice to you would be to get to know the things that they're using. All the apps, set up a Snapchat account, add some people to it, communicate with them using the same thing. And then you can see what goes on in it and experience it firsthand so that when you are exploring what they're doing, that you'll have some familiarity with it. So don't be dumber than your kids is first off.
Yeah.
Right? And you have, like, again, you have to invest as a parent or guardian into being smarter than your kids. You have to put the time in to become smart or as smart as they are. And then number two is don't, you know, if you can, like, as a parent, the standard is that, you know, you want to give good guidance without controlling the outcome. Like, how annoyed would you be if you had principles and your kid would not be a reflection of your principles, versus if your kid would not be, like, if you didn't believe in murder and your kids murdered people, like, that would definitely be like, I want to stop you from thinking that that's a justified reaction or response. But political ideologies can be a different thing. Like, how many, and I pick on liberals because we're just in an era where it's their time to exhibit bad behavior because they're at a disadvantage. They are using violence as a tool of their expression. They are, you know, holding people hostage and want to control, you know, the actions of other people. Republicans just have the same potential to do those things. We're just not in an era where there's a lot of it happening. So that's why they're being picked on in this era. But if you take something and you're trying to get your kid as angry as you without giving them all of the infrastructure that regulates that kind of behavior, you might be pissed off that we're destroying the environment. Great. Okay. The principle is we want to be considerate with the environment. We don't want to do damage. But as a parent, if you're like militant about it and making your kid into militant, they don't have the ability to control those emotions and thoughts. That's why I said above your pay grade. So if you're going to give them that anger, you also have to give them the ways to handle that anger and express it the right way. A 15-year-old is never going to express themselves reasonable, rationally. They just don't have the ability to do it at that point.
Yeah.
So if parents are inciting their kids to be little shitbags they're going to hurt other people because they're angry, and without giving the tools to be able to do it healthily and, you know, the right way, I blame the parents for a lot of that.
And it would be interesting too to see if you're putting that on them, like, oh, here's anger, here's outrage, here's whatever. When they then show that towards you, do you punish them? Do you give them the don't talk to me that way?
Exactly.
It's
You're
like
making a little angry firecracker that's just going to go off at the worst possible time.
You just fed it. Yep. Stephanie says, I check my kids' stuff often. Occasionally, my daughter gets a morning not appropriate language, take it down message.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's good governing. That's good governing. You're looking out for them. But again, it's hard for a parent to not turn into an authoritarian figure. Once you gotta already know that they have exposure to this stuff, and it's gonna make you mad when you discover that XYZ person said something, and then your little, naive vanilla person just got exposed to something you didn't present to them. You're gonna get mad and gonna be like, I shut off all controls and I'm gonna put you in a bubble and I'm not gonna give you exposure. Versus arming your kid to know how to process that stuff. And if there are unnecessary, like Discord's the Wild West. If your kids game, right? Mm-hmm. All the games have the Wild West communication where they get together with other people playing those games through Discord. Well, there is more child perverts. There are perverts that prey on those people through Discord than any other service that I've ever been exposed to. Right. And so your kid has probably had conversations with people through the guise of gaming and talking about games, and they're trying to be exploited every day. And you should be petrified of that.
Yeah. My son is super into those like online games. Yeah. And I mean, my husband plays them too sometimes. And Yeah, I'm not always in the room when he's on there. I've told him don't talk to people, don't give this information, yada yada yada. But I'm sure someone's been talking to him, and it's so scary.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like those games.
Yeah, and so is your husband playing a violent video game, right? He knows the difference between shooting someone in a game versus shooting someone in real life, right?
Yeah.
You expose violence to somebody who hasn't quite oriented themselves what is make-believe and what is real, and they're so used to it. Every day they come home from school and they pull people out of their cars and they kill people, and if they die, they just respawn.
Yeah.
And so I would say your husband's smart enough to be able to orient that stuff, the way it should. A 14-year-old probably is not warmed up to how the real world even works.
I remember I got a little paranoid. My son has a toy gun, and he does. He plays all those games. I hear him yelling from the next room, dude, don't kill me, bro, blah, blah, blah. And it's bangs and shots I hear. He has got this toy gun. I don't know if it shoots Nerf darts or something. And he had it in his bed with him, sleeping above his head in his pillow. And I'm like, what are we doing here? What is this? And he's like, oh, I just want it there. And I was like, but never to mess around with a real gun, right? You would never put it by your pillow like that or point it at anyone. And he's like, yeah. And I'm just like, do you know? And it's a toy, and we've had gun safety talks with him before, but it just I was taken aback a bit. What are we doing here? Why do you suddenly have your toy gun by your pillow now?
Well, okay, as kids,
it was odd.
We watched television show that had guns and people getting shot. Not real believable, gross, whatever.
Yeah.
But when we were exposed to it, who was getting shot?
The bad guy.
The bad guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so the worst case is that as a kid, I would have shot a robber or a terrorist or somebody who was bad anyway. So the repercussions, people were like, the worst hit, you're not going to shoot a police officer or an innocent person or a person just driving down the road. In today's exposure, who gets shot? Everyone.
Random people, yeah.
Everyone. So
they're in my way. Get out of my way.
Exactly. So it's the influence, the impressionable person is watching things where it's not just the bad guy has the bad day. It's everybody's going to have a bad day because you just wield that, power of killing innocents because it's fake.
Yeah. Stephanie says, Joe, Kelin, do your parents use technology? Mine do some.
Not mine.
None at all?
No, not really.
No computer, no internet?
No, they would have no idea. They would have no idea.
Both of my parents use computers and the internet, tablets, things of that nature. Just curious, why, Stephanie? So Joe's parents, no. My parents, somewhat, yes.
Truancy is a big problem in schools, and it causes many negative things to the mental status and knowing right from wrong in children. We used to have truancy officers, but they're no longer in many counties, including Mahoning. Fear used to be a tool for behavior. It's no longer being instilled into kids due to cutbacks. So you use the Paul Harvey deal, right? If you want to concoct a violent society, and that was your deal, and you got your evil villain mask on, how would you change society to make it more likely that we had what we have today, right? Mm-hmm. And if you wanted to be the good guy on the other side, what would you remove that you think could have the best results on taking violence out of the community? And would you be willing to deprive yourself of certain things if it meant making society better, right? And we have done everything in the last decade to make violence more likely to happen, a higher probability. If you want to so you take impressionable people and you fill their brains up with a bunch of anger. You expose them to violence all the time. You give them the opportunity to get all of the killing devices that they would want. And then you use language. It says, hey, if you do this, it's actually a good thing because that guy's a Nazi. I don't think you can do more to make it more likely aside from you grabbing them and putting them on the X marks the spot of what to do and whatever. So all of the passive things are being done already.
Oh, yeah. They're desensitized. They're used to it. The human connection is fading. The prevalency of weapons is now higher. I mean, everything. It's even like we saw recently in some of these real life murderers, they idolized past murderers. Like somehow that became the new celebrity. Oh, we're in the perfect storm.
100%.
It feels like it would be harder to not raise a psychopath.
100%. Yeah. My 90-year-old dad uses computers, iPad, and is a YouTube nut. So yes.
Julie, does he watch us?
No, she has banned us from that iPad for sure.
See if her dad would agree with us.
Okay,
or not.
if you know some like it's not an all or nothing thing. So everybody that watches violence does not become a killer, right? But for instance, so let's just say you take more dangerous exposures. Do you think that that we went too far and having available things that can be seen? Like if you go on YouTube, you should, if you're a certain age, you shouldn't have exposure to certain things, right? So YouTube Kids means that if you're a kid, your parent extends an account that has limitations to it. Instagram, Snapchat, Discord. If you're X amount, you don't even get permission to be in those deals. I mean, at least prevent anybody who's under 18 from doing it. Playing a video game, proving your age before you're allowed to get into a video game, right?
Yeah.
They did it with pornography, where states were able to put your driver's license with proof of identification, and making it really hard in certain states to get that exposure without having to provide that.
That's better than just saying, give me your birth date. Like anybody can do that.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. When shortly after Charlie Kirk was killed, my daughter said something to me one time. She's like, oh, I keep getting served content now when I go on YouTube, Charlie Kirk stuff. And I was like what? Like, what did you see? And she's like, oh, just like his debates and stuff. And I was like, is she going to come across the video of it happening? Like, that's a big fear too, or these horrific, violent things are out there. And what are you going to do? You know, I saw somebody online say that they feel like the Charlie Kirk assassination is this generation's JFK. And it got me thinking, can you imagine if what happened to JFK and how that must have looked was broadcasted to the whole country in HD? Like, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah, and I believe that there have been a lot of underage people that have seen that, and that breaks your brain in a way that I fear, because it goes from a computer generated version of death and blood spatter and whatever is way different than seeing the human body take a wound like that and be dead. And it is so disturbing, even for an adult brain to process that. I couldn't imagine a 13-year-old not looking at that, not throwing up immediately. I want that to be the response, because I want it to be so off-putting.
Yeah.
I don't want them to be used to that.
My brother just recently sent me a video. It was a reaction video. It was a girl watching a scene from Game of Thrones. I've never even seen the show, but the setup was so that I knew probably what was happening. I didn't see it. I could hear it, and I could watch a girl's reaction to it, and my imagination filled in the rest of what I think was happening on the screen. And I got physically nauseated. Like, I can't even see that.
Yeah,
like, all I did is fill in the blanks. It was some red wedding scene. I think somebody was beheaded. I don't even know. But it was enough that I was physically sick. I cannot look at real stuff like that. I don't want to look at it. I don't want that to be in my head. And the fact that there are people in this world that can see it and not only not care, but be happy about it, that's messed up.
Yeah. Like, you go to, let's just say you go and take your kid to a doctor for a wellness visit once a year. Psychological wellness should be part of that deal, where they can test how broken you are, right? And know how many psychopaths are in the teenage years, and make some kind of medical adjustments so that, having less exposure to the stuff that broke their brain in the first place, you'll have more popular belief. Like, it shouldn't, our freedoms don't extend. So for instance, if we got real accustomed to saying, here's an 8-year-old person that thinks they're another gender, right?
Mhm.
And then everybody, there's a group of people that will fight or say, oh yeah, an 8-year-old knows what's going down. They know themselves. They know how their body works. They know the ramifications for doing this. Let's let them freely express themselves rather than having a guardian that is supposed to be managing the decisions that that person is making, and how disconnected between how do we go from kids can't get a tattoo until they're 18 because they make bad choices to this person's going to mutilate their body and change their whole biology for the rest of their life. But let's let them do that and have the ultimate say on it.
You're not even allowed to vote.
No vote.
You shouldn't make major decisions.
Yes. You should be governed by a parent.
Yeah.
You should have somebody that's helping you make those decisions, not deferring to a kid on the decisions they're making. We're backwards, we're upside down.
There's this idea in even like the military community. They say when soldiers get out of the military, after a while, they really start to kind of come undone a bit. And they say it's not over the stress or trauma of what they saw and what they experienced, although that is part of it. But the biggest undoing of their psyche is acknowledging what they themselves did.
Mm-hmm.
And they're so effective because they're trained. They're trained. You turn it off. You take all emotion, all human attachment, all mercy, all human whatever. You shut that off completely. You are a robot. You don't feel a thing. You just act. And when they're removed from it and they realize, look what I did to someone, it's very hard for them to handle. And to that I say, that probably should be hard to handle. To come to the realization that there was this incredibly traumatic, awful thing you were involved in and you are affected by it is normal. To say, don't care, I'm happy no matter what, that's not normal.
Mm-hmm.
But we've normalized it
100%.
to the point that there was a man at the university right there in front of Charlie Kirk, witnessed in real time, in real life, him get shot and instantly cheered. Instantly. That's a whole level of psychotic behavior I feel like we've not even seen, except in like mass murderers.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane to me. Julie says, all that makes it real to me. It wasn't to glorify it. The difference was my dad was always sitting beside me to explain it to me.
That's perfect. And that's what I'm really suggesting. So if you reverse engineer what went down with a couple of these shooters, I'm interested in where's the origin. Like, this person wasn't pissed off enough to do it on their own. They needed someone to nudge or help them. And I want to know how that's happening, how we're orchestrating violence from the left against people on the right, using the proxies of people whose brains aren't being developed with enough anger to actually pull it off and being successful at it. So if it's able to go from, expose the real demons out there, not the people who are being proxied, but find out who these real demons, where it's coming from. What if it's our enemies from overseas? They're like, we're going to destroy America by using social media to just make people who live there do it. Are there enough, sadistic, mind-broken people that we can make do violent things, and then they take the fall for it, and then we could just move on to our next proxy? That's probably a lot of what's happening.
Oh my gosh,
but parents are going to be instrumental, because law enforcement can't do things proactively as much as parents can do something proactive. So if you went on a chat and you saw someone contacted your son or daughter on chat, let's hypothetical completely.
I'm like,
and they were like, hey, do you hate the government a lot? Are you really angry about government stuff? And you heard just that coming out there, and you're like, as an adult, the premise would be somebody's fishing for someone who's angry. Why would they be fishing my kid to see if they're angry enough? And then you'd want to know more. You'd want to know what this is, so you could put that person in freaking jail, because if they're doing it to your kid, they're probably doing it with hundreds of kids. And some kids are probably like, nope, you're a psycho, get out of here. But some kids are like, yeah, I'm pretty angry.
Yeah.
And I'm having a weak moment here. Tell me more.
I just heard the term the other day, rage bait. Have you heard of rage bait? Oh, yeah. So somebody shared a video. There are these videos that you'll see come up like a reel or something, and somebody is saying something so outlandish and hurtful and ridiculous. This is called rage bait. Mm-hmm. And Could it be just a twisted person that decided to share their views and they're just nuts? Yes. But could it also be manufactured for the sole purpose of creating outrage in you, and now I can get you to act?
What if I told you that 80% of all communications were people that were just sowing discontent? What if I told you 80%? Then you would look at every conversation and wonder if that one is legit. Because I'm going to tell you it's a majority. Here's one that happened yesterday, right? I think it was AI generated, and it was a nurse. And basically what she said was, our emergency room has been swamped with liver failures from people taking Tylenol in spite of the RFK things. Not enough time to have an emergency room response by the people that were guzzling the Tylenol. Sure, it might have happened.
Could they have maybe had some sort of OD of something? Maybe. But liver failure?
Liver failure.
In a day?
Liver failure in a day. But it was an immediate response to the rage of people downing the Tylenol in response to the Tylenol speech. And now all of a sudden, look at all these people dying. Because here's what happens, right? People are dying from the Tylenol. Then you have certain people cheering then on, right? That what happened to them was justified because they acted stupidly guzzling. When I don't think anybody... First of all, I don't think that they guzzled that Tylenol. I think they did it for clicks and they spit that shit out. No one's going to take a mouthful of Tylenol because that's just really dumb. If they did, we're in really bad shape. But then to have a huge liver failure contingent in our hospitals, not likely.
Oh my God. And it's so prevalent. We see this everywhere. I saw somebody, it was a reel of a woman reacting to a reel she saw. And in that one was a man that's like, I'm so over Republicans now. You're all done. You all deserve to be ended. You shouldn't have a life anymore. And if I meet you in person and you tell me that you're on the right, I will take your life right then and there. And all this like horrific things. And she's kind of reacting to it. And I was like, is that guy even a real video? Or is that rage bait? Psycho? Maybe. Manufactured by someone online to create discontent, to create anger, to create whatever. Good chance.
Yep. Zero shields against it. That stuff is being manufactured by other people, and you're susceptible to it. I know for a fact that I'm a cynic. I'm a skeptic when I read anything or see anything. So it doesn't affect me at all. I'm able to take it in, know that it was probably concocted, and spit it right back out, and it changes my brain at all.
You're AI.
Totally.
Yeah.
It affects you because you make it constitute a real action that was connected to all other action. You want humanity to catch up, connect with other humans. And so that fake one was part of those connections.
Have an emotional reaction.
It breaks your brain in that way.
Yeah.
You and a majority of all people have a worldview that is mostly fabricated stimulus and an overabundance of things that are made to do just that to you.
Yeah. Which is why I've sort of just been getting away from it. Like, you'll see people that want to just fight online and push back. I saw something last night I disagreed with. Somebody posted something about Charlie Kirk that could not have been more wrong. It was literally wrong information. That's all it was. It's not your opinion. It's not how you felt about what he did or said. What you shared is not true. And I just went, delete, 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 delete. Let me go watch a happy little video. Because it's futile to fight back. People will only hear what they want to hear. They don't care about factual information. They've already decided what they're going to believe. And so I've started doing this just whole, nope, 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 nope. I'm not even seeing it. So I'm going to go touch grass and surround myself with golden retriever videos all day long. And it helps. It helps.
Well, I mean, talk to your husband about this, but there are methods of sort of like the strata that you have to what?
Kenneth's comment. Liver failure from taking Tylenol is a real thing.
Well, yeah, you absolutely can have liver. I totally agree that you can destroy your liver, damage your liver, and have, if you take a full mouthful, you can absolutely die from liver failure.
Kenneth, I think you missed the setup of what he was saying.
Yeah.
It was the very next day.
And the hospital being swarmed with liver failures.
Yeah, that you can just about guarantee was a made up story to poke the bear in this already tense conversation. Sorry.
So if you want to psychologically break someone down, let's just say you capture a military, a general, right? And in their head, they have all that you want, but they have shields up against you. And then you're like, I'm going to bring in a psychology expert and I'm going to break them down so I can get to what I need. There are levels that you have to travel up. You can't go against their main defenses and say, what do you know? Right? Because they got defenses against it.
Yeah.
But you break them down. Maybe you deprive them of light, right? Maybe you deprive them of food. Maybe you play certain music in the background. And the science behind removing parts of the brain that are necessary for the defenses to sit on, when you starve them of food, starve them of light, starve them of connection, those things can't be defensive when you get to a certain point of that torture, right?
Yeah.
So when you think about 80% of the things that are said to you, they are attacking the foundational. Maybe the people that you believe, let's take up their credibility. So now you can't refer to things that you were solid in part of your foundation because you've removed that. Well, he's a quack. He's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Okay, well, maybe my defense is my ideology. And then maybe your ideology is evil and Nazi and whatever. So now you're basically trying to remove the principles that you hold by removing the things that support those principles, where you can't go after the principle on its own. So if our enemies know it, you want to break Americans and their will, their patriotism, what they believe, right? I'm not going to go after the things that are heavily guarded and garrisoned, right? I'm going to go underground and hit the weak spots of humanity. So if I want to destroy America, I'm going to go after the things, why do school shooters go into schools? Weakened defenses, soft targets. So the same strategy goes with individuals, that if I can work you and inundate you with 80% of the torture to break you down, right? And all I have to do is make sure you get exposed to it for long term. It only takes a 0.001% chunk out of your defenses. But if I expose you to it long enough, it will whittle away at what makes you you. And in 2 years from now, I come to you and say, here was Kelin 2 years ago, right? Heavily defended and knew what she believed. And here's broken down Kelin after I've taken out everything she thinks and she believes. She's on little stilts that are wobbly in every department.
Yeah.
Now, when I take over Kelin's psychology, she's broken to a point. I'm going to have an easier time. And that's what our enemies are doing to us.
For sure.
For sure.
Pitting us against each other.
So the only way to defend against it is do not take it as legitimate. No, don't even take it serious, right?
Yeah.
And limit your exposure to it. So touching grass is probably the most genius approach to it. Because if you don't see it, and you don't buy into it, you don't argue with it, it doesn't affect you because you're blind and oblivious to it.
It would be interesting to look at people either from older generations or for whatever reason don't have social media. I would love to do a study on people that do not engage with social media and those that do, and test them, their lives, their psyche, their mental health, their everything.
Like if universities aren't researching that kind of stuff, what the F are they actually researching? Things that don't matter to culture and civilization?
Yeah. There's got to be some studies out there, I'm sure. At this point, somebody before me just now has had to have had this idea.
Well, we're in times, maybe end times, according to some people, that if they want their Super Bowl where they can inflict a lot of positive change, now would be the time to put we're dealing with, we're Nero here, right? And we're on fire, right? We are on effing fire. And it seems like the things that all of the money was taking, like climate change, was super important for a little while. And now all of a sudden when Rome is burning, right? Yeah. Let's pay attention to the things that are real important, like our connections with other people and how we don't murder people we disagree with. There's still some people that want to keep bringing up these now silent topics of global warming. There are people that are still want that to be on the forefront of what is endangering human beings right now.
Oh, that's another thing we can fight about. I saw somebody posted think it might have been when Charlie Kirk was killed. Somebody's like, wow, I wish people were up in arms about children dying in school as they are with this. You think people aren't upset about that? Like, that's a fight starter. I saw the other day, I can't believe we're still having school shootings, but we're now all arguing about Tylenol. Like, more separation. I can't believe this. We're looking at this when we could be looking at this. Like, even that is a divisive tactic. Why are you even talking about this when we have all of this? Like, if one thing isn't working anymore,
so
then
what
point
makes
out
those
another.
people complicit? Like, if our enemies are trying to do that division, and you have a homegrown person that is not part of that clique, but they're actually helping the enemies disseminate that discontent.
Yeah.
Why are they so willing to do it? Like, why?
They're brainwashed.
Maybe part of the psychological brainwashing.
Yeah.
Okay. I can see that.
We're in it. We're inundated. It's our lives now. Like, how many times do you think the average person is on the internet in a day? Is looking at something on social media, reading something about some political divide or some instance now or whatever's happening. It's all day, every day, all people, minus maybe a very small population. I think we are becoming brainwashed to be obsessed with things like this. And you got to be in it, and you're active all the time, and you're stressed about it. And then maybe you fight with a relative or a friend about something. So then you got to share stuff to get your point across. Like, I want everybody to feel this way, and that someone else can't just let it go and they've got to react, because we now no longer have the ability to control emotions or turn the other cheek. That's not a thing anymore. We have to react because that's what we've been trained to do. And it just keeps going. And we're all right fighters. We don't care about finding actual true information. We just want to be right. I can't ever admit something I thought was true isn't true.
All right, Kelin, you're bumming me out, right? I want to have.
Sorry, humanity's done.
I want to have hope that there is not 100% guarantee that all of the world falls apart because of this. And so far, what we've talked about, I'm pretty going to be right. I need some confirmation bias that we're just doomed. So tell me why we're not doomed. What could possibly happen that shakes that up and takes all the complicit, doom subscribers and the people that are involved in wanting the doom to happen. So if let's just say something happened today, right? Let's just say that we'll use the Mississippi case. So a black gentleman was hung from a tree, right? And the sheriff of that city in Mississippi said that this was a suicide, right? And so objective people were sitting by saying, there's a possibility that this might be a racist lynching. And it might be just some guy who hung himself from a tree. I'm going to take a step back and really see what happens. I'm not personally involved. I don't have a bias towards that everything's racist. And I'm also don't have a bias to say nothing is racist. So I just so that would be an objective point of view.
Yeah.
So what would we have to do for everybody to pause and not immediately jump on this is absolutely racism, even though I don't know anything more than you do. I know it's absolute racism because I wanted it to be racism. So now I have the option. What can we do to take that person and have them shut up for a minute and let's wait on it?
Honestly, what I keep going to, and it's not a popular idea, I think things were better before social media. I was not at all sad when there was talks of a TikTok ban. If we took away TikTok and Facebook and Threads and whatever the hell else, I think we would be better off without it. And I say that as a person that uses all these things. Well, I don't use TikTok, but I'm on social media daily, multiple times a day. I interact with people on it. I've always used this excuse of, I have relatives in other states, and that's how I can get a phone number. I can get a phone number and stay in touch with you. Honest to God, if tomorrow all the major social media platforms went away, I feel like that would be one small step in our country healing our brains. I really do.
Well, you just picked the thing that's not going to happen. That does not give me hope.
You didn't say how realistic is it.
I said I want you to save me from thinking that it is 100% chance of doom. So you have to float something out there that has a likelihood better than 0. Because I want people to know the truth and know that there's bad in the world. And when it is bad, you gang tackle it. But I don't want it to be that everything is bad, even when it's not bad, for that confirmation bias that we talked about. I want people to be reasonable and objective.
But that's impossible. You want people to be sane.
Yes.
And think clearly.
Okay.
And be objective.
Yeah.
And consider other sources.
Yes.
And listen to people with the idea of listening to them, not just
so
waiting
you're just in
for their
agree
turn.
we're doomed. Like, we're doomed.
It's literally like save us from ourselves and unplug the TV. Go outside and play. Like, go talk to people.
Only example that I can think of that saves us from this. Only example.
Jesus?
No.
Okay,
No.
go on.
I don't think he'll intervene. If he came here, I don't know that he'd
Even
take it on.
Jesus is like, I can't with you people. I can't.
Here it is. You ready?
Yeah.
Perfect AI. Put us in all capsules where it's just our brain in the capsule. Let us live in a simulation that doesn't hurt other people.
I thought we were talking about realistic ideas.
It's gonna happen. So here,
more realistic than my idea.
Let me give you more steps in the process.
Okay.
So within the next 10 years, occupations are going to be replaced with AIs that can do a better job than human beings. Now, I have a human being that doesn't really have any purpose. First couple months, they're going to maybe create great works of art and write some cool songs. And then the works of art are going to be created by AI and the songs are going to be created by AI. So really nobody's going to pay attention to expressive works of art. And they're going to be like, have no purpose. So they're going to go out and commit crimes and cause devastation. So then going to be worse because now they don't have a distraction.
They don't have an
outlet.
Job.
So now we're going to put them in a pod, right, to keep them from hurting other people and whatever. And we're going to put a simulation in their visor so that at least if they do bad things, it'll only be in something that they share with themselves. Their brain thinks that they're hurting other people and doing bad things. But in the real world, that was a personal simulation that kept everyone else safe from their decisions. And now we just have the Matrix where everybody's in a pod being used for CPU cycles.
All right, that's totally an easier, more realistic
100%.
plan.
That's
or
yeah,
The Purge.
Oh God, that's worse.
I feel like we're close to that, which is terrifying.
No, we're not going to go The Purge. It's going to be the capsules. I can guarantee. And if they take this, okay, so like let's just say that we just decided to prosecute for every law that's ever been broken. Right? You break the law, you immediately, robots come out to you, they take you, and they put you in a jail cell. Right?
Uh-huh.
And now we're like, hey, we got all these people. A lot of the population are here. Let's make the jail cells different so that it's not just a person in a cage. That's kind of archaic. So let's make a jail cell that's a little bit smaller, right? Because we got way more people now. We're running out of space to put people. And we build a capsule. And we're like, well, this person's going to want to move around. And some IT person or technology scientist says, well, we can't have their physical body moving around because they're in a little capsule. Let's put a visor on them, allows them to mentally roam around so they keep their sanity with whatever they have left. So now we have the capsule, we have the visor. We arrived there without just inserting. We just we have the how to get them in the capsule, which we wait till they break a crime and have a robot arrest them. And then the cell becomes the capsule where that's their holding tank. And they're like, hey, we're going to, all these people are atrophying their muscles. Let's just cut off their limbs. Right. And now their movements only happen in that capsule. And then the rest of their body is not necessary. We can replicate this. So we take their brain out and we put them in the jar. And now the jar experiences the neurological, don't need eyes anymore. And now that's how we arrive at brains in jars. That's the full storyline.
I feel like you're just dying for this to happen. You're like, I don't even need unrest in society. I just want us all to be brains in jars. What movie was it? It was like TV, because this was made, I think, before like the internet was big. But like all the TVs went out in the world, and it shows a guy going, huh. And he goes and he picks up a book and he sits by a lamp and he's like, and he just starts reading. What movie was that? And it was like when everybody kind of got away from their screens and stuff, they started just reading and being calmer. That's us, I think. And
what they didn't see is when the TVs went off, there was rioting and every city was burned to the ground. And so that dude was the only one that didn't get violent.
And everybody
and
started fighting about their freedom of speech being taken away.
Exactly.
Because that's another thing I've thought of is Facebook is owned. It's a company, right? It's not a government organization. It's a business. Technically, if they wanted to censor, and they do, content, it's fine. It's not messing with your freedom of speech. You signed our terms of agreements. You want to use my business, my services. I can do what I want with it. What if all buzzwords were gone? Anything politics, any political candidate names, anything like, if anything started trending, Tylenol, now gone. Autism, no buzzwords. Musk, no buzzwords. Gun violence, anything immediately kicked out. And all social media is puppies and food again, and maybe makeup brands or ads for whatever. Like if we went back to when it first started, remember people used to complain. They thought it was dumb that people would take a picture of their dinner and post it. And then now we're all like, I'd love to just see what you're having for dinner. Like that would be amazing. I'd love to see that it's your kid's first day of school. If it's that or the alternative, what we have now, the fighting and the hate and the everybody up in arms about something, posting things that make no sense. Like, what if the censorship, and I know we all say, I don't want censorship. We don't need censorship. What if the censorship got so great? It was like, if you don't like it, you don't have to use this platform.
I rail on this point on a regular basis, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a time for that, right? There's a time before you've done the thing to really put it on rails so that it's exactly what you want in the end. So let's just say somebody got in the 80s was like, hey, when we develop AI, what's going to happen is it's going to get really good and it's going to get sentient and it's going to take people's jobs. And they painted the entire picture of what it's going to be. And then 10 years go by and they keep developing AI. And then there are people like, hey, real warning here. Like the only reason this isn't affecting you yet is the big names haven't got involved and it really hasn't gotten to the level where it is sentient yet. And it's not better, smarter than professors and all of the best specialization disciplines in the world. We still shouldn't do is we shut this down now, right? And then we didn't do that. And then it does become those things. And now you want to see, this is where you want to rail against it and say, you know what, this internet has
hindsight.
The internet has a chance of really revealing stuff that's more than just what you had for dinner. Let's stop this now and get everybody on board for that deal versus like, nah, I'll never do that. And when it does, now the genie's out of the bottle. It's too big. Too many things is hitched to it. And now it's too late. So I rail on, have all that contemplation and those really smart people. So you want to get a no fear tattoo on your back? Oh, guess what? Guess what? Let's have a conversation first of what that means today, in 10 years, and then when you're an 80-year-old person. And if you're cool with it on that whole spectrum and you know what you're going to do now, which no big problem now. When you're a parent, no big deal. When you're 70 years old, I got a little bit of a problem with this thing now. Do something about it before you pull that lever, not figure you'll just, open the dam, let the water flood, and then when we see it ready to crash into a city, say, oh, wait, no, I don't like this anymore.
Yeah, it's kind of like, do you think the first people that started making these social media platforms were like, oh, this is going to be great. We're going to have this ability to bring people all over the world all together and closer and reachable. And they're going to be able to discuss ideas and share things and post things that anybody in the world can comment and share. And oh, wait a minute. How can that go awry? How can we take all the people and all of their opinions, and that's not going to be bad at all?
All right, well, let's talk about a protective weapon that you would hold in your house, right? And you and your family are thinking about putting a bedside weapon to defend in case somebody would break in the middle of the night, right? Mm-hmm. And you're like, here's what will happen. This person comes in, and then I will have the advantage because I have a weapon to defend it. There has to be someone in the room and says, hey, what if somebody breaks in and they get my weapon, and then I don't have one, and I've given them one? Well, you don't want to talk about that part. Like, let's just pretend that the only situation that we want to contemplate is our advantage, our addition.
Yeah.
We don't want to bring the possibility of what we would do if that should happen. You see what I mean? So every deal, like let's just make it easier to communicate. Well, what if somebody bad comes in there and also wants to communicate? We don't want to talk about the bad person communicating. What if we made AI and instead of solving equations and working on stuff that human beings, what if we do it and have it do things that human beings were once doing? It's all part of the linear conversation that we sort of ignore the downside risks, and then we're shocked when those risks happen. But in this case, everyone was talking about the risks from the beginning, but there was a contingent who was like, no, you're just a naysayer. You're just a...
Yeah. Kind of like, do you think they ever said, oh, we could sell advertising on this platform. We can make a bunch of money letting people run ads. What about fake ads? What about scammers that look like they have ads and then they scam people out of money because they thought it was just a regular ad?
Yeah, the internet gives a true advantage as a tool to humanity, and the tool of humanity is going to be used against you. You can say that every example of a new innovation is used for good and used for bad. So as you go through those innovations, so if I create email, right? Email on its face is great, communicating with another person. Free access, zero cost, right? What happens when people who want to send you emails, like you don't want them to send emails, and you get 1 million messages per day? Now the people using it for bad are at a huge ratio higher than the people who are using it for good. Now you have to invent something to mitigate the bad people using the thing that you created because you didn't build that into the equation when you adopted it. You were just like, this is going to be awesome and everybody's going to use it for good. Nobody's going to think of exploiting my phone number and sending me 72 text messages a day with who they want me to vote for. That'll never happen. It's just going to be used for Joe and Kelin to say, hey, you look good today.
Hey, you need to pay this toll. This toll. We're still waiting for payment. I knew we were screwed when I was at a restaurant one time. I got a fortune cookie, and on the back of my fortune was an ad. Ads in fortune cookies. Mm-hmm. I'm like, this is where we are.
Yep.
Making money will always trump doing good or giving something up for the betterment of humanity.
It'll always be exploited. Everything will be exploited at a certain point. Everything.
So again, like Stephanie says, how about when we had 3 channels to choose from? If we go back to, we start talking about the 90s, they're coming back. What if we bring back the 90s with technology?
Well,
do you not think that would help?
Let's go back even further than that. Let's go to the origin, the beginning of civilizations. Okay. You had gatekeepers. Life was slow and you had gatekeepers. Most people were in agriculture. Nobody was learned, educated at all. All of the information that we had the monks were protecting it, or they were in the churches, and they only let a few people in there because the information meant that you would enable these people to be more than just farm workers, right? And then they would start having ideas and they would want to start doing stuff and they would get angry about certain things, and you might have revolution. Just keep the information under lock and key so we don't enable all these people, give them means and give them connections and give them money, where these dumb people who shouldn't have access to the information now all of a sudden get it. And now they go against the church and they go against the government and they revolt, right? Mm-hmm. So you got to say, do we want the free exchange of information to everybody, or do we want the exchange of information to only certain people who can handle it and manage it well?
Yeah. And I would even say, like, still have the internet, still be able to Google things and look things up and watch information and watch interviews and things of that nature. I'm saying the social media aspect, the platforms on which you can sign on to fight with people, to rile people up, to be served AI videos of false information, the rage bait. Have the internet, have your ability to gain information, to read things, to check the source, to see how you feel about it. Take away the sounding board of the talking heads that just want to get loud about it over here. I think that would be a great world.
Can't happen. But social credit score can. Social credit score. So this is going to be the end around for social credit scores, because nobody would just adopt a social credit score. But we would need to be able to look at your profile, have AI look at who you are and assign you a score on what you have permission to do. And if you don't have enough permission, or you don't have enough brain power, or you don't have a stable enough life or a stable enough lifestyle, then there's certain things that are going to be a danger to you, and you shouldn't be able to do that. So a person that goes into a library, right, the social credit score would say who is really going to take. So if you're a person that causes trouble, you don't get good grades, you've never written an essay in your life, then a social credit score would keep you from going into a place where you're not there for the spirit or the intended purpose of the library. You're not allowed to go into the library until you behave differently, so that then your behaviors say that you would be a good candidate to go into a library to have access to information. So think of social media as being a library. Are you good at relationships? Do you just fight with people? Do you tell lots of lies? Well, you don't have a credit score that's good enough to be able to go on social media, because all you do is create havoc. So then those people are kept out. And so who would social media work out for? People who have good conversations, check in, post cat pictures. They're doing all the things that are good for the internet. And so those people are allowed in, and everybody else is kept out.
Let's do that.
Did you just say, let's do a social credit score?
I'll do it in a heartbeat.
All the dystopian shows where there is a credit. I mean, in Asia, they're doing social credit scores. So
are they?
Yes.
For real?
Yes. The government. Yes.
Oh.
So they're modeling it and how it works. And the fear is, through all the dystopian shows you've ever watched on it, is it's a control mechanism. So let me just do the same thing we did with the good people, bad people deal. If it only would be treated so that the mathematics are making decisions behind the scenes, and all they're doing is keep bad actors off of social media, right? Then that would be that half of the plane. What happens when the government decides that you're not doing any of those things, but I have a weapon that I can use to make sure you don't get access to things by polluting your credit score and faking it out, and now you can't do things, and I can destroy you just by altering your social credit score?
Yeah.
That's not thinking through the
could
problem.
Steal my identity and ruin my social credit score.
That's right. Or it could get all jacked up, and now people that aren't deserving, they could go to the library of ideas, but somehow it's not working correctly. So now they're being deprived of something because of bad mathematics, and nobody gives two shits about it being
it's
screwed
like
up.
It's too risky to try to change something. Just nix it. Just gone. Goodbye TikTok, goodbye Facebook, goodbye whatever. It's just gone. You still have the internet. You can still buy advertising. You can still go to websites. You can still read things. You can still Google information. You can still have GPS. You can have everything. Take the platforms that people are at each other's throats and do away with it. What's the downside?
I think like I'm actually a curious person, so that when I come across new stuff on the internet, it forces me to learn about stuff that I had never had exposure to before. I want to know. When I see quantum computers, I'm like, oh, I don't know anything about quantum computers. And it makes a suggestion that I get in new territories. I'm an expert on biology. I'm an expert on finance. I'm an expert on quantum computers. I'm an expert on Tylenol now.
Yeah.
I had no idea how to even pronounce it.
Acetaminophen?
If
If you say it fast, you can just jargle the word acetaminophen.
And that's me making fun of Trump, everybody. So Julie's like, yeah, go Joe. Let's see.
Julie.
Everything in moderation. Learn to moderate ourselves. Reasonable people do that, but unreasonable people do not.
Yeah.
I think year-round school with more integrated education. I ask my kid on a regular basis, why do we only go a partial part of the year, or a portion of the year, and not during the summer? I've always heard that schools, kids would serve on farm life, and during harvest season that they broke for education to work the fields so that you didn't die over the winter and you had enough food. Yeah. And then once harvest season was over, you went back to school. Right.
Yeah.
That was the main reason, but we do it now. And I doubt a lot.
Or you have a break when the weather is nice. There are things to do, vacations to go on, family, whatever, outings. You don't have school in the way of those things.
You don't need 3 months for that. You need a couple days. You need people who study human behaviors and put just enough days in there so that, like if you made the argument that your brain needs to rest after learning things. Well, since I stopped going to school, I've spent every day learning new things, and I've never really taken a break from it. It's not like, oh, my brain hurts, right?
Yeah.
So there's other reasons other than what those, women administrators think is super necessary. And I don't think 3 months is necessary. I think a week, maybe having it so that you do get, a week off every 3 months, so that if you need to jam something in for a week.
Would you then get through school faster?
Hell
Instead
yeah.
of graduating at 18, you graduate it.
Schooling's dumb. The way they do it is so dumb. Mixing in dumb kids with smart kids and making smart kids slow down for the dumb kids, not segregating and separating it based on intellectual ability, grouping everybody and making them. I mean, think about a sixth grader who could be in 12th grade deal. And the only reason they're not is because the dumb ones are ruining the environment for the smart.
They do have a little bit of separation. There's like gifted classes and things.
But for the norm, you're going to endure 90% slowdown for the smart kids because they're managing people who shouldn't even be there.
Then we're just preparing them to get on social media.
So they can go learn at their own pace. My kid went to Montessori. You know what the Montessori let them do?
What?
Pick a track and go as far as they want to, and they don't have to wait on anybody or anything.
But if you've got to interact and wait on the dumb ones, that's preparing you for social media. I've got to interact and wait on dumb people and listen to this drivel.
We cater to the dumbest amongst us. They should be put in, let's just say, not put them in prison, but put them in juvenile prison. All right. So you're there to learn. And if you're not there to learn, you put you in a place where we could get some value out of you. Maybe we make you do certain things that at least at the end of the day that we add this expense and you got a net positive out of it. They didn't pull in any information, but at least they didn't make everybody else dumber because they existed. Yeah. That's what and again, you change that and you make it shameful to be stupid, right? And not try and be the lowest of low. We elevate people that exhibit certain traits that go along with learning and education, put them in the real schools that everybody has to pay for, and put the dumb ones on work colonies or I don't know, some track.
Julie says, Kelin, are you making the argument to eliminate this platform?
Yes.
Yes.
She is.
And I'll explain. I'll even go as far as to say keep YouTube. And here's why. I like the idea of long form videos because I think people need to get back to seeing information in its entirety, not a snippet, not a clip, not a regurgitation of what happened from somebody else that might have their own bias put in there. Watch actual long interviews, long videos, speeches, things that actually happen in the context in which it was said or what had happened. So I'll even say keep YouTube around. If people want to be able to hear this show, put it on the radio, put it on TV. What are they going to say? Oh, well, then I can't type in and interact. Good. Pick up the phone and you got the balls to say something. Say it to us. Don't be a keyboard warrior and be like, this is so dumb and podcasting equipment should be more expensive and these people are idiots. Call and say it. Come on the show and talk to us or shut up or watch it on YouTube. If we take away one more ability for an idiot to just spout off nonsense, again, what could it hurt?
Well, what if we just made it harder to get to the content? So, I think those little situation comedies used to be 30 minutes in length, and it started getting us used to watching shorter form things. And you want a beginning, a middle, and end all wrapped up in 30 minutes. So it started changing our brains to be less patient and be unwilling to sacrifice something to get the entertainment or the knowledge that we were after. So maybe every YouTube video either costs $1 to watch, or you have to write an essay about why you're requesting the video and make it more difficult to, not free, nothing, everything free makes everything, polluted. Like if I made it $1 to send an email, how many spam messages will you get when you're being paid $1 for it? Right?
Yeah.
Keeps people away because being that text message costs me $1 every time I send you a text message, right? I'm going to be really deliberate about the text messages that I send.
What if we go back to, you got to wait for free nights and weekends? Contact me.
No free. No more free. So if I
have so many minutes.
If I don't know you, I have to fill out a form to be granted access to send you text messages. Means that I've got to make an investment. It's not going to be someone who's looking to exploit a bunch of people. It's going to take so long and cost so much. I'm not going to want to exploit it. I'm going to go something that's easier to exploit, not that one that's expensive and costs a lot of time.
Yeah.
We are serving and catering to convenience. We should be going in the other direction, making things really effing hard Like, make it hard to get to school.
Oh, and I've even noticed I'm right there with him. My brother, he and I send stuff through Instagram Reels all the time. And he'll send me something about, I don't know, a political candidate or an issue or whatever's going on in the world. And I'll start to watch it and realize this is a couple minutes long. And I'm like, dude, I don't have time for this. It's a few minutes. And I was like, give me the quick reel. I need the quick reel. I don't have time to watch this whole thing. It can't keep my attention that long. And I'm like, whoa, then you shouldn't have access to the information.
Yeah. And so free ruins things. I mean, my son's a good example. He likes Raising Cane's. He likes their chicken there. And so he got in a real big habit that every time he was hungry, he wanted his favorite food. And so we bought it for him a couple times, but then I was like,
kids do that.
And then I was like, hey, I want you to start paying for Cane's. So he'll say, hey, I really want Raising Cane's. I'm so hungry. I'm like, cool. It's, $12 when we get your dinner and you're going to pay for it. And he's like, oh, you know what? Maybe I can find something in the fridge. Right. So the behaviors when it's free, you don't learn to govern yourself because somebody else is paying for it. So I think free really messed things up, make things harder to get to or more expensive.
Yeah, because even in Facebook's beginning, like when Facebook first came out, it was only for college students and you had to have a college email address to even access it. Mm-hmm. So the idea of having to have something to access it is not a new thing.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Why don't we say, show me your credentials, show me you can be a grown-up? Because really, social media, it's like a dark playground for adults. It's dangerous. It's like you wouldn't go into a club in a bar without showing some ID. Show me you belong in here, that you could be trusted to be a grown-up and not cause a problem. Well, you better show me your ID to get on social media. And I use the word ID to be whatever it is. Mm-hmm. This is a good idea. We need to make our own platform, and you have to get through the door. We're going to have a bouncer to access it. And once you're in, it's all fun, positive, lighthearted stuff. I bet you we changed the world.
Wrapping up there. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We will catch you next time.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube